In the early morning meditation, yogis come like bees to drink the nectar of the Supreme Presence. By silencing the mind, we are filled with the love of God. And the power of that love produces nectar in the third eye that drips continually into the heart, filling us with joy, with peace, with satisfaction, with the fulfillment of the realization of the supreme power. And that power is assimilated so that we realize our oneness with it. And the body and the mind become instruments of that supreme intelligence, that supreme love. And it is this power of love that dissolves away the ego with all of its fears and desires. And purifies the consciousness of all traces of that false identification with anything other than the Supreme Self. With the activation and opening of the third eye, we are able to see and realize all that is Shiva. All that is God's intelligence, beauty, and love in action. All the elements of nature, the trees, the flowers, the birds, the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars, all the beings are all manifestations of the One Self. And all have their unique beauty and goodness. And the entire show that is put on is directed and governed by Shiva. And so we can relax into complete trust in Shiva's intelligence and goodness and benevolence, guiding us to the highest destiny of realization. And into that state of consciousness that is always beyond all the manifest forms, beyond all space and time limitations, into that eternal presence that is completely free of any identification with any appearance. Because once we have realized the Self, to whom all appears, there is no longer any tendency to forget that we are dreamers of this dream, The body is in it, but not of it, because the body itself is a manifestation of Shiva's intelligence. But the source of that intelligence is bodiless, formless, absolute presence. That has no objective correlative. It is the pure being of the transcendent self that is always liberated, always free, always at peace. And nothing can disturb the consciousness that is one with the self. And the self is pure consciousness, nothing else. When the mind is silent, you are that pure consciousness, nothing else. There is no difference. And in the silent mind, there is no differentiation. All is one. All is the same radiance, the same beauty. The same bliss. There is nothing further to seek. We have arrived home. And once the nectar is produced, it remains and it reproduces. We become the sources of that nectar and are able to distribute it, to share it, to transmit it through our vibrations, through our compassion, through our love, through our humility, cooperation, through the natural goodness that is inherent in the consciousness that is pure. This is the goal of alchemy, to become that pure gold, golden light of God consciousness, to shine that light into the world. This is the goal of Christianity, theosis, to attain Christ consciousness, to realize that you are that. You are the Buddha nature. You are the Brahman. You are nothing else but that, and never were and never shall be. It is only a matter of awakening from the trance of the ego in order to receive the nectar that transforms and brings the transcendence of consciousness to the highest level of the purity of God. This is the precious and most sweet work of the yogi. To bring the beauty of God into the world through the grace of our actions, our words, our thoughts, that are God's thoughts, not the ego's, and our silent presence most of all. That presence that is unperturbable, immutable, unchangeable, and unborn and deathless. And that consciousness attracts all kinds of beings. And all come for the nectar of that supreme love. Yes, you can have some. And so let us all be icons, living examples of that incredible, exquisite taste of the presence of God that makes life a miracle and brings about extraordinary circumstances that could not be predicted or planned or calculated by any ego, but that enable God's magic to work in ways that are awesome and that always bring about healing and upliftment. And once there is no longer any tendency to be pulled back down into that negative trance state of the ego and its body consciousness with its fears and its pathologies and its ignorance of the truth. Once that has been eradicated, then the power of God's presence within that radiates out becomes augmented ever more. So that the power itself creates an energy field that is morphogenetic and enables the very easy transformation of all who are willing to receive that same energy. And this is how a Kali Yuga becomes a Sat Yuga. A hell realm becomes a heaven. And we are to be those instruments of the transformation of the world, so that those who still are blind will be able to see and to receive that amazing grace that all seek. May we learn to constantly vibrate with that supreme love. That makes all things possible. The goodness of the self, its power of love, its fearlessness, its nobility. Are the invincible powers that we are given as spiritual warriors to overcome all negativity. In all of those who seek to be healed. And this power is the one catalyst that overcomes all resistance. The power of silence is the basis of success, of victory. Of joy. And that power is innate, natural. It is our birthright. We are that. We have simply to remember and to drop into that effort of no effort. That returns us instantly to the supreme knowledge that sets us free and that can set all beings free. Because it is the truth that brings freedom. The pure truth of the supreme reality that you embody. May you always enjoy that supreme vibration. May it fill your heart with the fullness, the gladness, the deep peace that can never be lost.